What's going on, fams? It's your man, Smoking, No Joking with Big A. Now, tonight is the University of North Carolina Duke game. So today we gonna do a 3-hour cook. But I'm saying, I'm about to have some guests. So I wanna cook something special. I wanna make sure that I have the King's meal ready for them. We about to smoke some beef, y'all. Take a look at this. I know you probably done seen it. You've been to the Texas Roadhouse or wherever you go for your barbecue and your steaks. But today, take a look at this. We doing the big cowboy. I'm talking that big. Now, I'm a big man. Look at the size of this meat here. And this is beef. And we about to season it, and we gonna put it in the smoke. So if you watch my other episodes, you know I've said it. It doesn't matter. If it's meat, it can be smoked. Remember, smoking is about flavor, right? It's all about infusing your meat with that good smoke flavor. You want to get all intimate with your meat and keep your mind out the gutter. But I'm saying you want to get all up into it. Let's take that word smoking. You can go into a store, you see like smoked turkey, smoked ham, smoked sausages, right? So again, any type of meat can be smoked. It's about flavor. Barbecuing is a lot different than smoking. Even though you can smoke on your barbecue grill, smoking is about that wood chip, right? And the type of wood chip will add a different type of smoke flavor to your food. But remember my other episode, if you do your job and you season your meat correctly, and I'm talking about you rub it and you make sure that you got all the spices that you need in there, your meat is gonna come out flavorful. For me, smoking adds a additional layer of flavor to the food. Now take a look at it. Like I said here, this is a big old piece of meat. And basically what's gonna happen is once I cook it, we're gonna cut it down. Now the technique I'm gonna use is no different than if I was seasoning up some beef ribs. I'm going to inject this meat. I'm going to coat it with all of that good rub all through there, and then I'm gonna put it on the smoker. But here's the trick. Today's tips and tidbits. So when you're smoking beef, I want you to think about the cut, the thickness of that beef, right? Now, normally when I do ribs or if I do a whole chicken, I'm at that 250, right? And I like that 4-5 hour cook. Now this beef here, I want it to be nice and tender. So I'm gonna go at a 225 for 3 hours. Now this is what's gonna happen. At about the 1.5 hour mark, right? I'm gonna take that big old piece of cowboy beef and I'm gonna seal it. I'm gonna wrap it up tight, just like I would with ribs. And the reason why I'm doing this is it's gonna lock in the tenderness of the juiciness of the flavor and make sure that that meat comes out nice and tender and that top skin is also nice and tender. So we doing the big cowboy. If you're doing this for your people, big cowboy, we smoking it for 3 hours at 225. Now look at the size of that beef, y'all. And I know you asking yourself, yo, Big A, look at the size of that beef. Yes, I'm gonna cut around some of that fat, but I'm gonna leave some of that. But the question you should ask yourself is, because of the thickness, am I gonna keep the juiciness going by injecting that piece of meat? And you're absolutely right. I'm gonna inject this big old cowboy beef chuck steak all through there to make sure that the juices is always bubbling. Normally, I'm seasoning my meat, keeping it overnight, doing all that stuff. And if you watch the other episodes, I want you to go back, watch them now. I talk about how to prep the meat. Well, today, as you saw, I pulled it out. It's fresh. So I'm gonna take the next level. I'm gonna say, you know what? Go ahead, injectable butter people. I want my money. And I'm gonna use the injectable butter. But here's the Big A secret. I'm gonna add a little garlic powder to it. I'm gonna warm it up just a little bit so the garlic powder melts all up in there. And then I'm gonna inject that big old piece of cowboy steak. Boy, boy. Take a look here. Even with this big old piece of steak, right? Look at that. I'm gonna get that injection tool all down up in there. I'm gonna pull and pull out nice and slow, right? I'm gonna pull out nice and slow. Again, keep your minds out the gutter, but I'm gonna inject it. I'm gonna inject some butter and I'm gonna pull it out nice and slow. Look at all that oozing out. And the reason why we're doing this is gonna keep the integrity, that tenderness, as well as flavoring all the way through to the bone, right? All the way through to the bone, this big old cut of meat. So if you're ever doing a big old cut of meat, take the time, inject your meat with additional flavor. So now that you've taken the time and you've injected your meat, right? Remember, we making this meat fresh. We pulled it right out the pack. It's all about that seasoning. Now, y'all know I got my staple, so I'm gonna go ahead and let them know, hey, I want my money. So we gonna go ahead and use this holy cow. I'm about to rub my big old cowboy steak all with this holy cow. Now, remember, if you watched the previous episode, I said holy cow got a little bite to it. So if you wanted to and you wanted to create your own rub, here is the best things you can do to just make it on the fly using what you got in the cabinet rub for yourself. This here, you could go ahead and use some Lowry's, right? Lowry's people want my monies, right? You've got the base of the garlic powder, right? And you saw that other one on the spices there. But I also like to use some fresh oregano, right? Get that all up in there if you can. And then, of course, you take your onion powder. Now, a lot of people, you know, if you want some extra kick to it, you're going to go ahead and make sure you grab something like your ground black pepper here, right? And have that going in there. But those are the base ingredients that you can use for your rub. Now, I done said this before about that smoke flavor. When it comes to smoking, you got to use the spices that you and your family like, things that go to your flavor profile. I'm going to show y'all this episode. Wait till you see it. I done made some jerk smoked chicken, y'all. Got my legs twitching just thinking about how good it tasted. And I'm going to show y'all that. But what I'm saying is when it comes to smoking meat is all about infusing it with that smoke flavor. So for today's meat, there's a special type of wood that we're going to use. So today's smoke, we going with a hickory, right? Remember that hickory, right? It's great, but it's going to be sweet and it's going to be strong. So the reason why we're doing a hickory is because of the cut and the size of this meat, I want to make sure that I get a deep wood type smoked flavor all through the side. Now let me again show you the girth of this here piece of meat. So we want to make sure we get it all in there as far as the smoke flavor. So we going with a hickory. Now I didn't do an episode on how you're supposed to set your smoker up. You know, read your manual. You might have a regular barbecue grill that you're setting up for smoking. But I will do an episode on how to set up your smoker if I didn't already. I'm not sure. But one thing I want to remind you, remember that fresh butter? All right, so this is that garlic powder infused fresh butter. You want to keep that because once we go to that half cook and I seal the meat, remember in that previous episode when I did the chicken and the ribs, we going to pour gently like honey over the body, all of that good butter. And then we're going to seal it up tight. And that's going to lock in and make that meat tender and moist and wonderful to the taste. Now you can see it. I got it all seasoned up. And if you really look up in there, I added a little bit of oregano over the top of that holy cow, right? Something about oregano and basil. When you add that to the smoking of your meat, I'm talking about it just adds an additional woodsy type flavor, especially to beef. When you do it like that. So I've got the holy cow all through there. I got some oregano. Then I actually put a little more garlic powder up in there. I mean, if this was Scratch-O-Vision, you could probably scratch the screen and smell it. We about to go outside and put this meat on the smoker. Just another quick tips and tidbits. A lot of people who are into smoking, they do things like mix their smoking woods, right? Somebody might mix a hickory with an apple, right? Or they might take the mesquite, right? And mix that with a post oak. The reason why they're doing that, again, it's about flavor profile. So by mixing different woods, some people use a peach wood on their ribs, right? It will add a element of difference in flavor to your meat when it comes out. So be mindful. But again, this is about feeling the love when it comes to cooking. And the best thing you can do is experiment, right? So the next time you're out there barbecuing, I mean, inside the charcoal, you could throw a few wood chips and say, hey, you know, how's this going to smoke and taste to me? I mean, it's like alchemy. You got to experiment with different things in order to find out what really works for you. So again, today we're using that hickory. I ain't mixing it. The last tip is that some people will smoke their wood chips. That really comes in handy, especially when you got this long, you know, them 6, 12-hour cooks. Well, we trying to get this ready for the basketball game. So I'm not going to soak my chips. I'm just going to let them burn because within that hour, them chips is going to be smoking and flavoring up that meat. Let's do a quick recap. So we started with this big, large cowboy cut of steak, right? And we put that at a 225 for 3 hours. Now, depending on how you like your steak, some like it with the blood oozing out. I like mine's more closer to the well done side of it. So I'm going with a 3 hour. If you like it for less, check it after an hour. Check it after 2 hours. You want to check your meat throughout the cook, right? The second thing we did is we made sure we injected the meat with all that good garlic butter, and that's gonna help tenderize the inside as well as keeping it nice and moist. After we cook it for about an hour and a half, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna seal it tight. But before I seal it, I'm gonna ooze and drizzle some of that good butter and garlic all over the top of it. Then I'm gonna seal it tight and I'm gonna let it cook for another hour and a half. The reason why I'm doing the seal is, like I say, if you keep meat too long, it's like the top skin, right? You want that top skin to be biteable all the way through, just like all the way through the middle. And when I pull it off, I'm gonna cut it through and y'all just gonna see how juicy and tender this big old piece of cowboy is. Again, you can make your meat fresh, you can use all types of seasonings, but you want to make sure that you experiment and find the flavor profile that works best for you.
Wow!
Wee! Look at that thing there. Now we about to wrap it, rub all that good butter sauce all up in it. Wee! We done pulled it off. You can see I got it there sealed tight. All that butter sauce down in there. And that's what I'm talking about, people. It don't matter the type of meat, any meat. If it's meat, can be smoked. And here's the thing I want to show you. Look at that there. The knife going right through that. What? We done cooked it straight to the bone. See all that tenderness all through there. We about to eat like kings. Look at that, one more good. Man, look at all that butter sauce. It's your man, Smoking No Joking with Big A. As you saw, we did the big cowboy steak up in the smoker today. The methods, the procedures, it came out all juicy and tender. Now that steak, the size of that will feed a family of 4. So trust me, I just count as 2. So once again, I want you to tune in, enjoy this. The next one I'm gonna do for you, I'm just gonna give it up right now. I'm gonna show you how to do this honey glaze all up in your ribs. So the next episode is about ribs and honey glaze.